Today you have some young guys. I'm going to bring those guys out here in a second, and they're going to be interviewed by Jeff Cranford. Jeff is a former PGA player, still a PGA professional, but more importantly, he was called by God to get behind the walls of country clubs and minister to people the exact same way Lynx is doing today. And he's a foundational guy and missional guy who started this church 8 years ago with 50 folks that said, hey, I wonder if God wants us to do something here. And the combination of Lynx and Church at the Red Door has been an incredible blessing, and we can't say that we did it all ourselves. There's definitely some other power above us, and we call him God, and we were thankful for that. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring up Joe Highsmith. Joe, come on out. We'll learn a little bit about Joe. I've known Joe for a few years. He's a member at the Palms and attends our church here, and his mom, Ann, and his dad are just great people. Sam Stevens is our next guest. Just got to meet Sam, father, 3 kids, great guy. And Wesley Bryan. Wesley, come on out. Wesley, thanks for being here. Wesley's got some great story. Jeff will bring some of that out. And last but not least, our pastor pro, Bible guy, and great interviewer, also on the board of the Israel College of the Bible, amongst many other things, a multitasker, Jeff Cranford. All right, man.
We are going to have a great time tonight. So I was going to know, now Joe I've known since he was in diapers here. So Joe's actually a local guy, Joe Highsmith. When did you start coming out here? 16, 17 years old? How old were you when you kind of started coming to the desert?
Yeah, my parents got a place here in like 08 actually, and it was kind of just a vacation place. We're from Seattle, and then I think starting in 2015 we got our own place and started coming down quite a bit more. But
so now I was at the Palms, and we heard about this young guy, Joe Highsmith, and his 18-year-old, and I remember getting paired with him once, and I just thought, this guy can go. He hit it at the pin every single time. I mean, he's one of the better iron players I've ever seen in my life. But
Still does.
Still does? Yeah, well, that's what I thought. So we're excited to have Joe. And then Sam Stevens, Wichita, grew up, was actually born in Fort Worth, so we got some Texas folks. Played at Oklahoma State and played on the team with Victor Hovland, played with Wolf, played with Eckroat, played with anybody else I'm missing, Sam?
Wyndham Clark.
Who's that?
Yeah, we had a good team. We had a few good players.
Did you guys win the NC2As when you were there?
We did, my senior year.
Yeah.
Well, they did. I wasn't on the top 5, so.
What?
Yeah.
Zach Bosher was.
Kidding me?
Yeah, we had a good team. Did you win a national championship too?
we did, yeah, in 2021.
Did you win one, Wesley, at South Carolina?
So Sam and his wife, they have 3 kids. Tell us about your wife, how you guys met. Tell us about your kids a little bit, Sam.
Yeah, so my wife and I met at Oklahoma State. She actually worked, the course we played at had a restaurant where we ate lunch every day, and she was a waitress at the restaurant. And my best friend from college, Zach Boshu, his wife was also a waitress at the restaurant. So I tell people that shows you how social we were. The only girls we knew were the girls that were forced to be with us every day for lunch.
That's good. And then this is Wesley Bryan to my immediate right. Now Wesley's the old man of the group at 34. What are you, 34 now? 34. So we're gonna have some good stuff with Wesley tonight. So I was actually found this late tonight. My wife Laura helped me find this. So he was on the cover of Lynx. Here we go, right behind you here. He was on the cover of our magazine before we went full digital. And that's because I read something. He says pink pants and blue shirt is like Tiger has red shirt, black pants. You got this. How did all that start, Wesley?
Well, that wasn't actually my Sunday outfit. That was probably a Friday outfit.
Oh, that's a Friday.
Yeah, the pink was usually a little hotter, and the blue was a little bluer. But anyway, just started doing that.
Just started doing that?
Randomly on the Corn Ferry Tour. Shout out to Joe and your shirt there. It was the Web.com tour at the time. And then in my third event, I won, and I think I had a pink shirt and blue pants on. So then I was like, well, let's just keep it. Just keep it going.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. By the way, I was like, how did we, of all the pictures we could get with the Getty and all this, because we pay a lot of money for this, how did we get the one-handed?
They got a lot of options of me without a club in my hand. And what I found is when I would one-hand it and kind of drop it, the club would go just right there. So then I resorted to just keeping it in my hands and then throwing it afterwards. It goes further, and you can get rid of a lot more anger that way.
So now you tell us about your wife, and you've got 3 kids as well. So
Yeah, I met my wife in preschool. So that was at McGregor when we were 4 years old. Then we kind of had mutual friends, went to different high schools, started dating in high school, and then all through college, got married right after. Waited 6 or 7 years and had our first kid, and then they started popping out. We got 3 of them, all girls, and I think we're done at this point.
you're done with 3 girls?
Done.
With 3 girls. Now, Sam's got 3 boys, and do we have one?
We do have a 4th on the way. We don't know if it's a boy or a
Come on
girl.
now, there you
but
go.
It's a boy, let's
it's
be
probably
honest.
a boy. I know what my wife is pulling for.
So I look at, before we get going, I mean, everybody's always interested is like, so I want to start with Wesley. You got introduced to golf. Your dad was kind of a makeshift. I want to say makeshift. I don't want to assume anything, but he came up with 10 acres in the backyard or something and built a little like wedge range of sorts. So tell us about that. How you
Yeah.
got introduced to the game?
So when I was real little, he was a PGA professional as well, and so he taught lessons, and we just kind of followed him to work, kind of against his will most of the time. We just kind of tag along, my brother and I, and then as it progressed, we got a little bit better. He decided to kind of put all of his eggs in our basket, so to speak, and he had a good job and a good academy at a few different golf courses. And then he decided to just go build his own place, basically at our house, practice facility. Had a wedge range in the back, and that's kind of where I honed my game from 8th grade all the way through college. And then, yeah, here we are.
So you've got a brother named George who's a couple years older than you. We're going to get into that in a little bit because, so when did you start thinking competitive? I mean, did you start playing in high school, when did you know, college golf, played at University of South Carolina? When did you start thinking, we may play the tour? I want to play the tour.
Well,
I mean, everybody wants to play the tour when they're
Yeah,
kids.
it's still kind of a dream to play the tour. I do it rarely. These guys do it full time. I do it part time. But I would say when we got a little older and kids started to grow, I played baseball and golf all growing up. And then when I got to high school, when I would go play in these baseball tournaments, I was like, man, everybody's good. Like everybody's really good, and go to golf tournaments. And it was clear that I was definitely one of the better ones in the state. We didn't really travel much nationally to go play in tournaments. But I knew that I wanted to go play college golf at that point. So I gave up baseball, started chasing golf, and I guess I got lucky for a couple years. Still don't know if I'm good enough to play
Okay, so
professionally.
wait a minute. All this false humility, man. So
No,
this
it's
is
true.
This is a
Sam,
rare,
back me up, Sam.
I can vouch. I don't think he's good enough.
This is a. Now this is a rare deal. I don't know if you guys, if you're aware. And of course, when I started, it was the Ben Hogan. I mean, I actually go back far enough to have played the Ben Hogan, and the Nike, and then Buy.com or Nationwide, and it's been through a lot of iterations. Now the Korn Ferry. But you got a battlefield promotion. I know we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. You got a battlefield promotion. If you win 3 times in a year, you automatically get your PGA Tour card. Now that is not like, hey, I do this little part time. That's huge. I mean, how many total battlefield promotions have there been since they started that? I don't even know. I mean, maybe
I don't think there had been one since Wesley got his until this last year.
until this last year.
Yeah.
Is that right, Sam?
So I think it happens.
I mean, that's
pretty seldom.
unbelievable. So talk about that a little bit. I mean, were you kind of thrown in? That is this catching you by surprise? It's kind of like, oh, I've always dreamed this. I mean, Tiger's, he's writing majors on his bedroom, on his closet, and when he was going to win them and how old he was going to be. Did this somewhat take you by surprise when you had that much success that early?
Yeah, well, I went a couple years or 3 years of playing mini tour golf.
Which is awesome, which
Yeah.
everybody loves.
Right, yeah. I mean, didn't make any money and really didn't have anything to show for 3 years of work. And my brother and I, we just started a YouTube channel and messing around.
We're going to talk about that
Yeah.
in a minute because this is good stuff. This is really good stuff.
And so right when that was taken off, I ended up going to Q School for my 4th time, got all the way through, and got on the Corn Ferry Tour. And I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. Like, speaking of a dream come true, like playing on tour wasn't, I mean, yes, it was always a dream, but I just wanted to like get on some tour that like to where you could do something with it. After spending 3 years doing nothing, never even played in a Corn Ferry PGA Tour event, never got to a Monday qualifier, never got through Q School. So I was really excited, and I got to my first event and finished, I think, 6th or 7th in my very first one. And I was like, wow, I guess my game, if I play good, is good enough out here. And then
So would that have been the moment where you're like, okay, I believe? I mean, there's a
Yeah, yeah.
moment like, I believe.
Yeah, and so I played great at Q School. I played great in my first event, and golf at that point was starting to feel relatively easy. Like when you're looking in somewhere and the ball was just going there, and then you make every putt you look at. And then I did that for about 18 straight months. But I won my 3rd event and pretty much had my tour card locked up at that point. And then I won probably my 5th event, and then had a couple more really good chances to win, and then ended up winning, I think, in my like 11th or 12th event, and went straight to the tour, and then won relatively quick out, or had a few good chances to win, and then won relatively quick in my rookie campaign. And so yeah, for that time being, I knew that my good was good enough, and I still to this day, like that I saw when we were back there, they were running clips. Like my good now is still good enough to compete with anybody, but again, I feel like me doing that week in and week out is probably passed by.
At 34, it's over. Yeah,
It
it's
is.
over. It's
It
completely
is.
over.
It's a tough fall.
So, Sam, when did you wanted to play the tour from the time you were yay or what? I mean, talk a little bit about the evolution of your competitive life.
Yeah, so my dad and my grandpa both played collegiately, and they both played a little bit professionally. My dad played some mini tour stuff, but my grandpa played the tour in the late 60s for a couple of years. So golf was always kind of, what our family did. If we went on vacation, we went somewhere that had a cool golf course, and in some ways, that was I really enjoyed it growing up. I maybe didn't have the most normal like vacation childhood, but I played every sport growing up, and similar to Wesley, you get to a point where you realize, I'm not sure if the NBA is really going to be my calling. But yeah, I mean, I would say that golf was always my favorite sport, and my dad would always pick me up from school, and we just head to the golf course. He was always loving to hit balls, and I think it was an excuse for him to get off work a couple hours early and go practice. And so, I would say by the time I was 6 or 7, I was like, yeah, I want to be a golfer.
Tour. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I don't know if I thought I was going to the tour, but I was making putts to win majors every single day. So
That's wanting to go to the tour. That's what that is. That's what that is.
But just as I kind of progressed and got into high school and stuff, again, similar with Wesley, I figured golf was my best option for college, and just.
But you're
kept working hard.
killing it in high school to get to go to OSU. I mean, OSU doesn't just recruit anybody, right? So talk about that a little bit. The success you had in high school, and then how'd you get to OSU?
Yeah, so the coach at OSU when I was being recruited was Mike McGraw, who's kind of a relatively famous college golf coach. He's at Baylor now, but I was lucky enough that he kind of had a theory that he was going to recruit a lot of guys from the Midwest and fairly close to Stillwater, and Wichita is only about an hour and a half. So I'm not sure. I had a good high school career, but a lot of the guys that I played with at Oklahoma State were like the best of the best high school players, and I think he was more thinking, oh, I can get this kid from not very far away and, kind of culturally will fit in with our team. And so I was lucky enough to, he gave me a chance, and he ended up not being my coach. He got fired right before I got there. But Oklahoma State was incredible and got to play with so many good players.
This is something I've always wanted to ask. I just do not understand. I mean, when I played, it was Old Southwest Conference, and Verplank was at OSU and all that. And so they've been dominant forever, but why? I mean, you're in the middle of the wind world, of the world of wind. I mean, there's nothing to attract seemingly, but tell me a little bit of the ethos of OSU. I don't get it. I mean, because so many good players.
Yeah, you can't really explain it other than they've had a couple really good coaches. There's a kind of a legendary coach, Mike Holder, who was there before Mike McGraw, and he was your classic old school hard nosed kind of
Psycho.
kind of a jerk. But he just had a way of getting good players to come. I don't know how he convinced them, but and kind of it was one of those deals that once they got
It's
rolling,
a cult,
it's
isn't it? It's kind of a cult.
It's
I mean,
a little
it
bit
has
of a
to
cult.
be.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a cult.
Ricky Fowler. I mean, yeah, these guys go anywhere. They
I
could
know.
go
They
to
come
the
from
coast.
Southern
and-
California
yeah.
to come to beautiful Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Stillwater,
Yeah.
Oklahoma.
But no, it's a really cool thing to be a part of, and we have a big kind of fundraiser pro-am, and all the guys come back every year, and it's a really it's kind of I guess maybe a fraternity is not quite the right word,
I
but
think that's probably
Yeah.
a very good word, right?
but it's cool to be a part of that, and the old guys kind of pour into you, and a lot of the guys that are playing out on tour, when I was in school, Ricky Fowler, whoever, Morgan Hoffman, whoever it was, would come back, Peter Uline, and just kind of build into the next generation of Oklahoma State guys, and we were lucky to have that. And
Well, and that's also giving you, we'll get back to this, it's like with Wesley, is that at what point, I remember interviewing Tom Lehman one time, and he said the point that I believed, he said it was the last 72nd hole of Q School, I had to hit a cut and Tom Lehman cannot hit a cut. I mean, he can hit a cut, but I mean, he hits a draw typically, and he's, in his mind, hitting a cut into this right pin, right here in the desert. It was the last round, and he pulled his shot off and made birdie and still missed his card by one, but thought that that's what it was. And he said, that was the moment that I believed. And so I would think going to a place like OSU, you're like, well, I can play with those guys. I mean, being around guys that are dominating and doing, and that kind of program is going to build in you belief if you feel like you can play with those guys. Would that be right?
yeah, definitely. And I think it's like this in anything in life. But if you surround yourself with people that are super motivated and, maybe they're even particularly gifted at what they do, it's easy to kind of maybe not cling to their coattails, so to speak, but you kind of say, okay, I played with Victor Hovland, and he was a lot better than me in college. But I was like, I can strive to be like him. And he's a good role model from a golf perspective of, what I need to do to be better. And so, yeah, and like you said, having Ricky Fowler come back, all these guys, was, a huge motivational piece. I don't know if it necessarily gave me the belief that I was good, but it at least gave me a roadmap of what I needed to do to get better.
Well, brother, you had a great year this year. You've had, you're playing well, and I mean really well. So we're excited to watch what happens with your career. Joe, what was the motivating factor for you? Where did you feel like, let's go down the same line of reasoning? Where was it like, maybe I can do this? I mean, did you want to play the tour since you were yay or what?
I think so. I mean, we grew up as a golf family for sure, and so we played. My parents both played. My brother and I started at a fairly young age, and I mean, that was always the dream. We would watch golf a lot, and obviously always wanted to play professionally, and I don't know if I would say there was necessarily an exact turning point, but I felt like maybe once I started to have a little bit of success in AJGAs more nationally when I was in high school, then I felt like I could, be good enough to play at a good school. And then as college went on, I had a handful of success to where I felt like I was certainly not one of the best AMs in the world, but relatively close, and felt like, I could continue with this. And fortunately, since I've turned pro, it's been relatively smooth sailing. But
incredible. I mean, for just getting on the tour. So let's talk a little bit about the Pepperdine experience. So Michael Beard's your coach, who I've known since he was wet behind the ears too. Frank Beard, many of you know, lives here in the Valley. His son's the coach at Pepperdine. How did you decide to go to Pepperdine? And then talk about the transition from, Pepperdine's had some good teams, but then to win in the NC2As a couple of years ago. Talk a little bit about how you decided. Thagala obviously is making a big splash now. So obviously you had some good players at Pepperdine, but how did you decide to go there? And then talk a little bit about the transition, the team, and a little bit of...
Yeah, I obviously being from the West Coast, I felt like I would have wanted to stay somewhere west, which Pepperdine is relatively close to here, obviously, and I had those connections with. I played a lot of golf with Frank at the Palms down here, and had just heard a lot of great things about Michael Beard, the coach, and had a lot of people kind of advise me that he would be somebody good to play for and learn from. And at the time, yeah, Sahith had been kind of probably the first pretty big time player to go to school there, and how it worked out was we were going to get to have a year together, and then the team was also trending in a pretty good direction to where we were getting more good players, and yeah, it ended up working out great. I mean, after me, there were more really good guys to come in. William Mao just got his card, he was on our team, and I think of the like 10 or 11 guys that we had, there's like 7 or 8 of them have some sort of status, whether it's America's.
That's crazy.
Or Korn
that is
Ferry
crazy. No, that's crazy.
PGA Tour, yeah. So we kind of just developed like, you know, a culture of really good players, and we all fed off each other, I feel like. And, you know, as a result of that, I don't think we were the best team or should have necessarily won that NCAA championship, but we all kind of timed it up.
Okay, so I want to talk. I want to talk about this because I've been wanting to do this publicly for a long time because you need some praise on this. One of the best shots I have ever witnessed, television or otherwise, and I mean we all see the Tiger shots, and there's a long clips of Tiger and his stuff, and Nicklaus and the 1-iron at that. But I will tell you that the shots you had at the because it's down to the wire. It's match play. Of course, is how they've transitioned. It wasn't that way when we were there. But so last hole, you guys are in Arizona. You're at Grayhawk. And I was like, anything but that right bunker. And he hits it in the right bunker. And for a guy who kind of sculls it into the lip of most fairway bunkers these days, that's kind of how I play. But you kind of hit it under that lip. It's all carryover water. You have to win your match. I mean, this is down to it. And it's covered television, and I'm sweating. I'm like, what is coming out of my head here? And I still cannot believe you even tried. Most guys would have wedged it out, and Joe hits the shot with a 6 or 7 iron, I can't remember, and turns it in. He's a left-hander, turns it in, across the water, and hits it. I mean, just to get it within 50 yards of the green. He hits it about 15 feet from the hole, and they win the NC2As. Because of that shot, it's still one of the greatest shots. I want you to, now that I've set you up on this, talk a little bit about how in the world that to me was more impressive than Tigers in Canada with Grant Waite and all that, hitting that shot 215, and they still talk. He didn't even hit the green. NC2As, talk about that shot. Did you ever think about hitting a wedge out? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I don't want to downplay it too much because it was a good shot, but it wasn't that
good. Do not
good.
downplay that. In my mind, that is the greatest shot I've ever seen.
No, it was great. But yeah, the cool part was we were playing against Oklahoma State, who was a much... Sorry.
I didn't even know that, actually.
A much better team than we were, for sure. And I was playing against a guy named Aman Gupta, and we had a great match, and we were all square on the last hole, and he hit it in the fairway and then on the green to like 20 feet, and I think I was 1 up at the time.
And you guys needed this half point. I mean, this was a big deal.
So we were tied. How it was going to turn out most likely was that this would have been the determining match, and I didn't know that at the time, obviously. But as it turned out, I think Mike Holder was up there watching, and he said as soon as Aman hit it on the green, he was like, oh, we got this one in the bag in terms of going into a playoff, because I was relatively close to the lip. And I mean, when you're playing well like that, I feel like I wasn't really feeling too many nerves, and I had a good lie in the bunker, and the lip wasn't as much of an issue as it looked like it was on TV. But
that is not true. That is not true.
I did hit a great shot, and then fortunately didn't have to make the putt, and I legged it down there to win the match. But that was in the semis to get us through to. And how many matches finals.
Did you lose in the NC2As that year?
I won all 3 of them.
He won all of his matches. I mean, that's a big deal. I mean, that is a big deal. So was that a sense of belief for you winning NC2As? Was that kind of next level stuff for you to believe even what you did in your rookie year this year?
Yeah, I think so for sure. At that point, that was kind of the first year maybe when I was in college that I started to kind of elevate my game to a different level than it was the first couple of years. And that point specifically, obviously the NCAA tournament in and of itself is more about the team, where it's like everyone has to play well for you to win that. Obviously, I didn't win or even have a chance individually, but
Not
I had-
obviously, but maybe it didn't happen, but not obviously.
Yeah, I did have a good college career, but that was a turning point, though, I feel like, where there was a lot of high-pressure moments where I felt like I performed under them. And
So Coach Beard followed you around almost exclusively in the NC2As. Was there a reason for that? Did you want him to? Did you ask him to? Talk a little bit about that. I've never actually asked you that question.
yeah, he would typically walk with me in most tournaments, and he was really helpful. I feel like he and also Frank, his dad, I mean, starting with Frank, have kind of a old-timer's perspective on just how to play the game, and that was something that I didn't really know much about going into school, and I felt like Coach really helped me a lot with just kind of like generally the mental side of the game and getting just like clear pictures and being committed to what you're doing and seeing shots versus, like feeling a swing feel or something like that. And when he was with me, I feel like he could relate to a lot of the stuff that I would struggle with, whether it's like fear of failure, just worried about hitting out of bounds or all the kind of typical golf stuff. And he was really good about just getting me clear on like, let's just focus on what we're trying to do. And I felt like he kind of played the caddy role, which was nice because you don't have caddies in college. And yeah, so he walked with me, I think, every single hole that whole week and kind of kept me in check. And
So now I know so I've played a number of times with Joe, but I know that you're you're a field guy. You like to feel shots and feel, not get too technical. You've gone a little bit more down a technical role over the last bit. You still try to stay in the feel world, or are you more of a technician?
I would say certainly more on the feel side, but like we talked about, we played golf recently, and Jeff was asking about my rookie year, and most of the year I had kind of tried to go down that same route of being really feel like visual oriented, and but I just wasn't swinging it well at all. I feel like stuff was just off technically, and then kind of towards the end of the year, I cleaned up a few things with my mechanics and played definitely the best golf that I've probably ever played.
So now, let me, because you won't. I mean, these guys are all humble guys, but the last 6 events, I mean, Joe's outside the top 125, and I want to talk about this, make sure we talk about this, what's going to happen next year from going to 125 exempt to 100. That's a big shift in the PGA Tour. So it was some pressure, I think, this year to try to, get that top 125, and you're pretty much kind of out of it with 6 events to go. With 6 events to go at the end of the season, he had 5 top 20s in his last 6 tournaments. That's a big deal. Congratulations, brother. That is really awesome. In your rookie campaign, so that's a big deal. So, Sam, are you a technician? Are you a field guy? I mean, everybody wants to be a field guy, but do you get into the details and get into quadrant C positions, L, blah blah blah?
I would say I try to have a healthy mix. I definitely, in college, I was more feel oriented, and it wasn't working very well for me. So I think over the last 4 or 5 years, I've gotten a little more. Like I'll take a video of my swing, or I might have someone or my caddy, look at it and tell me what he thinks.
Do you have somebody you've been working with over the last 4 or 5 years?
I've worked with my dad and my grandpa pretty much exclusively the first 25 years of my life, but the last 18 months I've started working with a guy named Joe Mayo.
Sure.
He's out of where is he? Nashville. Well, he was in Las Vegas. Now he's in Nashville.
Vegas,
You're using that term loosely. You see him about once every
3 to 6 months, I shoot him a text.
So you're a field guy, pretty much.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're seeing your guy one every 3-6 months.
He's a grinder, though. I'm telling you, there is nobody that works harder on the PGA Tour than Sam Stevens. I will take that to the bank.
Yeah, I mean, if you hit enough balls, you'll find something, right? That's kind of my theory.
But I will tell you, you make percentage of making cuts is high, crazy high. What do you attribute that to? Grinding, or is it just?
I do
you
make a lot
of cuts.
I do. And it's nice. I'm always on the cut line, which is stressful, and it's the reason I don't have a whole lot of hair. But I think that again in college, I kind of alluded to it. I wasn't the best player on my team. I was always kind of struggling to make the top 5, and it's kind of a similar feeling to being on the cut line. So, I've kind of the last 10 years of my golfing career has just been, grinding it out. So I feel like I'm pretty good mentally when I get into those tougher situations. And I very easily could have missed half the cuts last year. Maybe not half. I don't want to say that I played poorly, but a lot of the times I'd be 1 or 2 outside the cut line with 9 holes to go and just find a way to make 2 or 3 birdies and then play very average on the weekend.
Get her done, though. Get her done.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. I mean, making cuts is a big deal. I mean, psychologically and otherwise. I mean, it's hard.
And there's something to be said about just, even when you don't have your best stuff, just trying to find a way to get it in the hole.
Your not so best stuff is still substantially better than most.
I appreciate that, Wesley.
So now, Wes, I really want to get into this because we've got a video clip we're going to pull up here. But so you're playing the mini tours. It's a struggle. I mean, mini tours, even if you're winning, it's a struggle. It's a grind. Even if you win, sometimes you win a few $1,000s. You don't even make expenses. It's brutal life. And you're trying to get out there, and you and your brother, maybe predicated on something called, I don't know if you've seen, there's a 30 for 30 deal on Dude Perfect. Dude Perfect was these guys, if you've ever seen it, it's these collegiate guys that start going out and they're trying to, shoot a basketball from up in the rafters of somewhere, and they'll do it 10,000 times until they do it. They actually made a shot off the stratosphere in Vegas. It took them several days, and wind, and the ball was moving, and so out of that, you and your brother have this kind of zany idea. Well, let's pull that video, and then we'll let Wes try to describe it.
There it is. You're watching Epic Trick Shots with the Bryan Bros. Hey guys, we've done a lot of
Where do you
different
find
tricks
this
in a lot of
stuff?
different places. We've got catapults, thirsty girls, funnels, footballs, baseballs, celebrities, and a bunch of other freaking awesome stuff. These are our most epic shots. Punch it!
Oh my God! Yeah, wrong sport. Go to the back 9, clown.
Tricky sandwich. Ready?
Go,
Go.
baby.
Yeah! I'm about to get my Picasso on. Oh yeah!
All right, this is our creepy trampoline shot.
Be sure y'all share this video and subscribe to the Golf Digest channel.
And if you want more of our trick shot videos, check out our YouTube channel at Bryan Bros Golf.
So
You had to
now
dig real deep to find that.
So wait a minute. You playing the mini tours, and all of a sudden you're making bank doing this. I mean, you guys are getting millions of views. And talk a little bit about that transition, and you're still doing some of this stuff. Talk about it.
Yeah, so we started doing the trick shot stuff because we were broke and bored. There's no other way around it. And we anyway, yeah. So it led
Broken
to
board can take you to some weird places.
It does. It takes you some really dark places. And again, it's funny that you brought that one up. That is still to this day the worst deal we ever signed with Golf Digest.
Oh,
to
is
do
it
that.
really?
So, yes.
The worst deal?
It was.
Your sponsors, you guys had some amazing sponsors.
Yeah, so that was when we were first getting. They 100% took advantage of us, and we had 20-hour work days for like a whole week, and I think they paid us $5,000 if. And again, but at the time, I mean, I thought we were. I mean,
That's like winning 3 mini tours.
oh, I know exactly. I was like, all expenses paid, and I'm going to make like $2,000 for a week. That's like the best week ever. And so anyway, that was very early on, and then we kind of progressed. We got to a really good spot. We were signing a lot of like content deals, and a lot of brands were wanting us to do ridiculous things, and it was fun. And then right when that thing we had a really nice trajectory going, and then I got on the Corn Ferry Tour, like I mentioned earlier, and that kind of threw a wrench in that dream because this was George's way out. So George had like completely gone broke. He was done.
Your brother.
Yep. And so he was kind of like, well, what do I do now? So he went back to playing. He got on Latin America and Canada and had marginal to no success over the next couple of years while I was doing my thing. And then again, I feel like the Lord and His providence, like during that time, I started having kids, started having surgeries, and my golf game absolutely tanked. And
So now, okay, let's talk about the surgeries because we were talking about it backstage here a little bit. So you had a shoulder surgery, you've got young kids, you're out for a year, and then you blow out your. We both had the same thing, and yours meant a lot more than mine did, but subluxation of the ECU tendon, blah, 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 and you can't do anything, and now you're out for another year on top of the shoulder, and it took you almost 2 years to recover from that. Where's, you just mentioned your faith. Where's the Lord in this? Or do you look back now and go, I mean, how do you view that time?
Yeah, I mean, looking back at it, it's very easy, like I said, to see His sovereignty through it all.
What do you mean by that? When you talk about, there's a lot of people here maybe don't be around the faith world, but you talk about God's sovereignty.
It's constant. It never changes. His goodness, it doesn't matter based on our circumstances. And so even though like I'm going through the absolute valley in my career, that was like some of the sweetest time for professional golfers. It might be news to you guys, but we travel a lot and we don't spend a lot of time at home. And so having that like forced time at home was amazing. And the first time really in my life that I got any of that. And again, so seeing like how it all played out and where the YouTube stuff is at now, I don't know if I've joked yet about it because I usually do joke about the PGA Tour being my part-time job. YouTube is my full-time job, and that's been some of the most rewarding time for me in the whole game of golf. I now get to choose when I go, where I go, who I do it with. And so the PGA Tour, they give you a schedule, they give you pairings, they tell you if you're good enough or not good enough, they cut you if you don't play well. I can shoot 75 on my YouTube channel and I can go back out and play the next day. It's amazing.
But you could have never in your wildest imagination crafted a life that gave you that kind of flexibility, be with your family.
Right.
So there's a gratitude in that.
Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely. And again, like if our time here on earth is whatever golf related, for me to have this platform to I don't know, use it to speak the name of Jesus, to tell people about how amazing golf is or how beautiful golf courses are, whatever it is, whatever the platform given to me through the game of golf is, I feel like the opportunity on YouTube is the same, if not even greater than my platform on the PGA Tour.
Absolutely. How many total views have you guys? I mean, do you have a rough estimate?
Well, I actually have an exact number because my brother-in-law texted me last week. He said our YouTube channel, we crossed over 75 million last week.
75 million views. 75 million views.
Yeah. I know, it's pretty good. Y'all can clap. Yeah, that's great.
And your dad was only 15 million of those. Is that right?
Yeah, no, he's made his rounds for sure on YouTube.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. As he too. That's great. That's great. So Sam, young family, traveling. Was your second year this year? So this is just start launching out on your third year on tour. Challenges with that? Does the family get to travel with you some? Are they out some? Not? Are they out full time? Talk a little bit about that in tour life, and then. And I know your faith is huge for you. I mean, it's kind of what drives you, right?
Yeah. I would say as far as my family and getting to travel, they come out, maybe one in every 3 or 4 events, and so that's over the course of the season. We're playing 25, 30 events, so maybe 20 weeks out of the year I don't get to see them, which is hard. And I think that my wife is amazing, and the Lord, when we first started dating, I kind of had this idea that I was going to be like the perfect husband and the perfect father. I'm not sure why I had that idea, but that was kind of the thought I had in my head. And my wife she has been a true blessing from the Lord. And just her maturity and her ability to handle what I do for a living and to kind of take on some responsibility that she probably shouldn't have to take on since I'm gone so much is just the Lord brought her into my life, and it's obvious to me that He brought her into my life to humble me and to make me realize that I don't have it all figured out, and she can do it in a very gracious way. So
It's amazing how that works.
yeah,
Isn't it?
no kidding. But so just being on the road is hard, and the nice thing, and it sounds like you guys have a great community through Links. Where there's an organization that you guys are closely affiliated with, College Golf Fellowship, and they've kind of
Big time, yeah.
Yeah, they've kind of come out onto the PGA Tour over the last 10, 15 years, and we have great community out here. So getting to know guys like Wesley, who maybe you wouldn't otherwise. Maybe I would never know Wesley if it weren't through the Bible studies, or you might get lucky and play a practice round with him. But there's so many guys. Everyone's doing their own thing, and
I might get lucky and play one with you these days.
Wesley doesn't even play practice rounds; he just shows up.
Now, does it feel, I'll ask Wesley this because these guys are newer to the tour. Does it feel more disjointed, like people kind of have their deal and they fly in and they've got their NetJets deal and they fly out? Does it feel more communal or less than it used to be, Wesley?
Did you tell him that this question was for me? Because he knows that I'm going to go in and talk about how selfish and ridiculous and entitled 90% of the people out here are, and how they're not that much fun to hang out with, and how it's pretty miserable, and I wish people out here would have more fun and be friendlier. But did you want me to say all those things or no?
No, I don't want you to go down that road.
Okay,
I
good.
really don't want you to go down that road.
You can just ask somebody else.
It's challenging. No, it's super challenging. I am nobody, 0-0. But I played a couple of events in Europe, and it felt like they all kind of traveled together. They kind of had dinner together. And I would come back here on the Nike tour and go, it just seemed was more pompous on the Nike tour than it was in Europe. And I think that's some of their Ryder Cup success. I think, because it is more communal, but there's still this element of the tour study and college golf and what they've done. Creating that community is vital, I would think, right?
Well, golf it can be a really selfish game, and you kind of get sucked into yourself pretty easily. And there are a lot of good guys on tour, and that Wesley is maybe being a bit exaggeratory when he says that kind of stuff. But
Never.
But it's easy. You when you're doing your own thing, you're like you become the center of your own universe. And when you read through the especially the New Testament, you just see that that's not the case, and that's not how we're supposed to live. And so when we get together on Tuesday nights or whatever it is, even if it's just going to dinner with Wesley, which I do even when I don't want to, just having guys that can speak truth into your life, and having people that you can go through this relatively selfish career, and hopefully instead of getting sucked into yourself, you can look out and
it's
like
unhealthy, right?
It is.
It's super unhealthy. Just being alone and feeling isolated.
It can be, for sure, and that's that's why community is so important, and surrounding yourself with like-minded people and believers is, it's good for you. It's for yourself, but also to pour out into other people. And I've kind of gotten onto a little bit of a Bible, scripture memory in the new year. We all have our New Year's resolutions, so check back with me in a couple weeks, see if I'm still doing it. But 1 Peter 3:15 talks about being able to basically give a reason for the joy that's in you. And I think that as we kind of go through, as we go through the year, it's easy to, like I said, get sucked into yourself, forget why you're out here. And Wesley, painted a perfect picture when he said he has this platform, to show people why he's joyful. And he might not even have to speak the name of Jesus, but just through his love or his, charismatic nature, he might, turn people on to the truth of why he is that way. And
that's good, brother. No, that's good. That's
we're
good.
Lucky to have the community.
It adds, and it's one of the reasons Jesus went to the cross, I think, was to connect us not just vertically with the Creator, but to connect us horizontally in a way that is certainly imperfect people, but it connects us. I was talking about this last week. I saw that the Surgeon General of the United States, he says the number one epidemic is loneliness and isolation. And he says the need for fellowship, for community, for service, relationship, community, and service were the three things. He said cardiovascular disease, he goes down this dementia, all these risks. And one of the reasons, people think, oh, it's always about heaven and hell. Well, yeah, it's certainly eternal destiny, but it's more than that. Jesus died to connect us this way. And when I see relationships like this, it's really powerful. Joe, I want to ask you the question. I mean, this was your first year. You have some friends out there, but it's very easy to get lost in the shuffle. Did you feel some loneliness this year? Did you feel, I mean, it's kind of overwhelming first year. Where do we go? Where do we stay? I mean, all that kind of stuff. Talk about your first year out there, and congrats on staying, too.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's true for sure. I feel like the Corn Ferry Tour last year certainly had a little bit more community where I feel like I made a lot of pretty good buddies out there. And, just generally I would stay with guys or stay with caddies and felt like I maybe had more friends out there. And then it seems like it's a little bit more business on the PGA Tour. And not that guys necessarily aren't friendly, but I just think everyone is kind of focused on themselves. And that's just kind of the nature of how it is. And a lot of guys obviously travel with their families or significant others. And, I've spent a lot of time just by myself in a hotel room with nothing to do and just kind of gotten used to that. And it is pretty lonely, but that's just kind of part of the deal. But it's great that they obviously have the fellowship group with the Tuesday Bible studies. And I've gotten to know a lot of really good people in my time so far being out here. And it really has been great. Obviously, I think it is just kind of a lonely profession, but yeah, everybody's kind of used to it.
Well, since Joe comes to Church of the Red Door, I'm kind of your pastor, so you got to kind of look at me, your pastor. So I'm encouraging you hang around these guys. I mean, hang around
Absolutely.
these guys as much as you can. So it's funny. This is again, I pulled this up a minute ago, but I was reading this article from 2018 talking about your win. Talk about that win coming down the stretch. Were you in the moment? Were you terrified? Talk about your win. It was at Harbor Town, the Heritage, right? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So luckily, I had been in that type of moment a lot over the previous 12 months or so. Had the lead or right up next to the lead, playing the last few holes probably a dozen times, or probably 10 times up to that point. So I was definitely prepared for the moment. Now, again, it being if y'all are not aware, I'm from South Carolina. This was at Harbor Town in South Carolina, in a place that I had grown up, like vacationing at. Our good family friends had a condo literally right next door to the clubhouse, and we would sneak on that place all summer long. Got ran off the place multiple times. And so it was the first PGA Tour stop that when I got there on Monday, I didn't feel like I needed to learn a golf course. And Joe, you probably fought that all year. Like as soon as you get there, it's overwhelming because you're going to try and learn a golf course for the first time, and you're competing against guys that have been doing it for 15, 20 years, going back to the same golf course over and over and over again. So you're starting from behind. But that was one where I felt like I'd played that golf course just as much as anybody that's been on the tour for 20 plus years. And so when I found myself in the moment, the last few holes, like I look up and see a leaderboard, and when I made the turn, I was maybe like 1 or 2 shots back. And then the next board, I think I made one birdie and saw that I was like tied for the lead. And I was like, man, nobody's making any birdies out here today. I know it's a tough golf course and the wind's blowing a little bit. And then I birdied 16 or 15 par 5. And so I stepped on 16 and saw that I had a 1-shot lead. And then I just, again, what was locked in on what I needed to do. I knew at that point, with all the people that were on the golf course and the holes that they had left, I was like, if I make one birdie, worst case scenario, playoff, more than likely win, like 90% chance. If I par the last 3, I'm thinking like more than likely I'm going to be in a playoff. And so I was basically just playing the last 3 holes, trying to make par on all of them. And again, it worked out great. Nobody made any birdies. And I'll tell you what, Joe.
The definition of getting it to the house.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And if you get to 18 tee box and you have a one-shot lead. That is the most amazing tee shot to have when you're a terrible driver of the golf ball. But you're not you're a good driver of the golf ball. The fairway at number 18 at Harbortown is like a 90, I think it's 94 yards wide from left to right at the range where I would hit my driver. So that was pretty nice to know that I could not miss that fairway even if I wanted to. And then, again, hit a good second shot.
Yeah, that's not an easy second shot, though.
No, it wasn't. But it was just an 8-iron. I had the wind off the right and the hazards left. So I play a relatively neutral, straight ball flight.
So, quick question. Being from that part of the world, are you thinking, does it ever enter your mind, this gets me into the Masters?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. I was thinking about that the whole back nine.
Because that was the week before.
Yes, the Masters.
Which means you get the whole year exempt and knowing you get a whole year knowing the Masters is coming, right?
Yeah, so actually leading up to that Masters, I was close to getting in the top 50 in the world to get into the Masters. I think it was like 2 weeks before. I had a chance to win at Riv and had a chance to win and Honda, and I think that was the cutoff for the top 50, and I just missed it, but redemption. So then I had to wait 51 weeks to play in the Masters. And in that 51 weeks, I got the full-blown driver yips, couldn't break 90 on my home track, and I had to take 5 weeks off before I played the Masters because I was like, there's just simply no way I can go out on a golf course. And so I'm telling you, that's a true story. And then I ended up playing nice at the Masters. Missed the cut like all the other majors I've played in. But
So these two young guys, what sage advice would you give to Joe and to Sam start early in their career? I mean, now that you're the old horse at 34,
yeah.
you know.
Well, I can't speak to Joe. We got paired together in Detroit. Is that the only time we played together? I played real good in Detroit until the last couple. Was it you that brought me down? I don't have any advice for Sam. Sam, he's going to keep grinding. I'm telling you, this guy is going to be a top 15, 20 player in the world. You pretty much guarantee it over the next 3 or 4 years. I truly believe that. Joe, I would just try and work as hard as Sam. And it's an impossible road to climb. You're not going to get there because your hands and your body are going to fall apart if you hit as many balls as he does. But Sam is the modern day Vijay Singh with the number of golf balls he hits. It's a true story.
So as we kind of wind this down, obviously, you know, this is not a bait and switch. We're at a church, right? So you say, well, why would you bring these guys together? It's a great evening. We talk about golf. We didn't talk about as much golf swing. We don't have a whole lot of technicians up here. But some of you come and you don't know. You don't know. So I don't know if this Jesus thing, these are young guys. What do they know? They don't have these life experiences that I've had, or maybe had a bad religious experience. So my question is, to anybody who wants to answer this, why would you be here tonight? But why would you follow Jesus? Generally speaking, why would you do that? At what point? I mean, why would you do that? What does that look like, Sam? Why?
I mean, my mind goes to the verse when Jesus said He came to give us life and give us life abundantly. And when you get sucked into yourself again, you're going to be miserable, right? As Christians, we believe that we're fallen. You know, we have a sin nature, and if you're putting your hope in something that is fallen, you're going to continually let yourself down, right? So, as I walk through my daily life, when I get into that selfish place, and I'm like, if let's say my worth is attached to my golf, or it's attached to whether or not I'm a good dad or a good husband, I continually fall into this, oh my gosh, like I continually realize that I'm fallen, right? So you have to put your faith into something that is solid when we talk about the sovereignty of God, something that is constant, something that can fortify you through whether it's a wrist surgery or it's a divorce, you know, something that is constant. And so, again, Jesus came, He died, He saved us from our fallen nature. And if we put our trust in Him and our faith in Him, He can give us a new heart. And so, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when I look at my own life and the sin that I struggle with, I know that I need a Savior. And I know I need a constant in my life. And that constant can't be me. And as great as my wife is, the constant can't be my wife. And so, yeah, I mean,
So Joe, I mean, your first year, and obviously you guys had a lot of visibility at Pepperdine winning the NC2As, and you've had, you made a lot of Golf Channel there even before you turned pro. So you've had that, but it's hard identity-wise to have every day anybody in the whole world, especially when you get on the tour, to see how you performed. I don't have that every day. Like I can't imagine. Oh, it was just the worst sermon he ever preached in the world, and it's all over the world every time. Is that difficult not to try to tie your identity as a human being to your performance? It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's where I just think it's so important to kind of keep your identity in Christ and really try to keep your focus on just being more like Him each day. And golf is such a selfish sport where you really are like the center of your own attention all the time, and it beats you up probably more than any other sport. So yeah, I think it's really important to kind of have your identity in something greater than yourself, and it's just tough. I mean, everyone kind of inevitably goes through a lot of struggles with golf, especially, but also in life. And yeah, so my faith's been really important.
That's good. That's really powerful. So Wesley, give it to me. So give us some practical steps or some things that you do on a daily basis to make this a reality. Everybody talks about a relationship with Jesus and all that. What does that even mean? And what are some practical steps you do to actually engage and say, okay, I have a relationship, as opposed to I just kind of believe this, and talk about that.
Kind of piggybacking on Sam's apologetic approach to like why Jesus. It's easy for me to wrap my mind around the creator of the universe. Like I can't just go out here and look at these mountains or go out and look at all the people in this room and be like, oh, you know what? I think some like pixie dust like sprinkled down and some rocks collided and like somehow Earth ended up like it did. Perfect. And then seeing people out here knowing that we were created obviously with a purpose. So if there is a creator, I'm just going to believe that it's God, like it's or something like God. There happens to be a historical document that has not been disproven with hundreds of thousands of people trying over thousands of years trying to disprove, and they're not able to disprove anything in the book. So my guess is the same God that created the universe is the same God that created you guys, that knew how we were going to think and try and disprove all of it. And we're still not able to do that yet to this day with all the Elon Musks of the world out there that have access to anything and everything. And so for me, it's easy to like see, yes, there is a God, but that's not where the story ends. Like there has to be, like Sam was talking about, a heart postured towards recognizing that the God of the universe, the living God amongst us, we have to put our faith and trust in Him. And again, daily practices, just getting in the Word. Like He gave us a resource that He wants us to use. And so that's what I start my day with every day. Like I'm excited, whether I'm playing terrible, whether I'm in relationally with people, a lot of strife in my life. Like regardless, I'm gonna get really excited to get in His Word. I'm gonna get really excited to get in my cup of coffee. And again, that's just like a quiet place. My mind kind of just bounces, and believe it or not, I'm a little ADD or ADHD. But as far as like being able to start my day rooted in His Word is great. And then other things that I do, like just this past week, seeing the gospel in our house. We hosted 25 college golfers through College Golf Fellowship, had a retreat at our house. And then me and George and another YouTuber, Grant Horvat, we all hosted it. And just seeing, like, you couldn't go to that retreat and watch like what was happening through the teaching, and these guys like opening up their lives to really a bunch of strangers, but leaders through the College Golf Fellowship ministry, and be like, you know what, that God's not real. Just watching the Spirit lead the room and the conversations, and seeing those some of the eyes opened was an amazing experience. And again, that's something like God gave us our homes. I'm sure a lot of y'all out here have beautiful homes. They were given to us to be hospitable with, to open up, and and love on people in them. And so that's what we were able to do with our house this past weekend. And
That's
it was
beautiful,
amazing.
man. So this is real. I mean, this is real for you guys, not just some mental gymnastics that you do to play better golf and you try to have this worldview. I mean, this is relationship. I mean, this is dynamic interaction with an unseen realm, with an invisible God that is more real to you than this table, right? Is that fair to say? Is that fair to say?
He made the table.
He did. He did. Good word.
Well, he
good
made
word.
me that made the table, but
So,
yeah, I get it.
anything in closing? I look. I've mentioned this at Phoenix Open, some different things that we've done through the years. We have a guy here named Ole. Ole was a professor at law school up in Minneapolis, and he went to a deal like this. It was a Tom Lehman deal. And Tom just very simply kind of said something akin to what you were talking about. He said, Jesus changed my life. The reason I follow Jesus is because I'm a hypocrite. When Tom told me that, I said, yeah, I know what's going on in my head. And he said, and that's why I follow Jesus, because I don't live up to the standards that my own mind wants to create. Ole heard that, and now he's teaching fellowship groups out here at PGA West, just up the street where the tournament is. He was on our Links National Board because of a simple deal like this. And you say, how many hoops do I have to go through? I'm telling you, if you're here, you're watching on live stream or anything, or you come across this 10 years from now, the message is always the same. Jesus is the foundation. He said you can build your life on this rock and you can have abundant life, as Sam alluded to. You can have stability even in the midst of crisis, all these different things. It's available to you with a simple, and the Bible makes it very simple, believe upon Jesus and you shall be saved. And that's not just an eternal destiny. That's saved from me today, and I'm being saved from me today. And I think that's a little bit what we're saying. It doesn't matter if you're tour player. This is ups and downs. This is life. It's a little bit more visible. You guys know the window's short. This is forever, and this matters. And so I know that's why you guys are here. We've got a couple of, and I'm just going to have Wesley close us in prayer and just maybe send an invitation, if anybody wants to follow Jesus. We have a few things on your seats. If you've never did this, you want some kind of follow-up from somebody that will, we do have a bunch of Amway salesmen in our church that are going to call you. No, they won't do that. If you just want some follow-up or you want a little bit more information, fill that thing out, give it to us. If not, I hope you had a great evening. And I'd just like for you to, Wesley, just close us and maybe just invite somebody to say a simple prayer. So,
All right. Father God, Lord, you are good. You are constant. You do not change. And you're worthy of all of our praise. You're worthy of all of our hope. And Lord, I know we're up here doing this golf and chat and faith talk, but Lord, I do feel like there was a good presentation of the gospel. And if there's anybody wrestling with that in this room, Lord, I pray that you would move. I pray that there would be an action step taken. Find someone to talk to. And Lord, we beg that for the ones that are even saved in this room, that you continue to stir up inside of us. Lord, I pray that we would not get complacent, that we would seek after you every day, that we would desire to know you better on a daily basis until you call us home. Or you come back, whichever happens first. Lord, we're good with either. Lord, we love you. We thank you this time that we got to spend together. And we pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
would you put your hands together for these men that took time out of their lives? Beautiful. I will tell you, we have something called the Links Blessing. I'm telling you, this is something to this. We did this Phoenix a few years ago. Scotty had never won a tour event, won that week. He has had a pretty good year last year, if you guys hadn't been paying attention. So, you know what? I say that half in jest, half not. But it has been amazing. Guys hadn't won majors, and they win a major. It's crazy. But, the Lord is glorified through you guys' lives. Appreciate you, and I know everybody here does. And you got a bunch of new fans, so thank you. Have a great evening. Have a great evening.